Okay, so I'm just going to show you the first thing, which is cropping. All right, so I have a couple of shots here that I did that I used some interesting crops on in order to get the photo that I want. So let me just see. This is fine. This is a normal crop. All right, so here's one that I shot vertically, but have cropped it. I did not crop it vertically. So why would I do it this way? Let's make an example of this shot here. So uh, originally I shot it like this. It's a full photo. I shot it vertically because I wanted to see how much sky and how much ground would be good for this image. But in the end, when I came back to look at it, I just really think that the top and bottom are unnecessary. So what I've done is I've turned the crop sideways. And I think that that really focuses in more on what you're trying to focus on, which is the building itself, and the stuff on the side become less distracting. So just to compare the two. Okay, to compare the two, this is the shot that I cropped. And here's the shot that was uncropped. And so if you were to make a list of adjectives to describe these two shots, what would they be? This shot, I would say, is more about the environment that it's in. Deserty, modern. It looks like a California desert. The clouds make it feel very interesting. Lots of movement in the air, but also it makes you believe that you're in some place that's a little bit more has a little bit more weather. The color of the photo is a little bit unnatural, but it was shot during kind of a bluish part of the day, and it's been warmed up just a little bit. And so I think that's okay. It gives it a feeling. But this image definitely feels more to me like an architectural shot. It's all about the house, and the stuff around it, it just kind of gives it a setting and places it. Okay, so that's what a little cropping can do. Now, what if I played with more cropping? So, for example, what if I wanted to crop it for the phone? The phone crop is a 16 by 9 crop. And let's see what we can do to make an interesting image for the phone. Okay, here we go. Looking on the side here, you can see a little thumbnail. This thumbnail gives you an idea of what your crop is starting to look like. So another interesting feature about this house is definitely it's these modern windows and the modern shapes that it makes. You can see that my crop already gives me this tic-tac-toe grid so that I can line some lines up. I don't want to be out in the middle like this because then the roof line is centered. I could put this corner here, and you can see that that creates a different look and feel there. Or I know that the focus I want is really these two big windows and the tower in the middle. If I came down with the crop, that's kind of interesting. It creates a lead up, a lead in to the photo with the foreground. And then if I did it like this, here, we can actually make a few. That way we can see the difference. Okay, let's also do a square version. Okay, so here you are, a couple of different crops. We have the initial crop, second crop. This is great too if you wanted to create some sort of a vignette here that I can create a linear gradient here, and I can really sort of darken the front and change that look as well. And then you can put some text in front if you want, or we could brighten it up like this, and you can put text in the front. Or for the next shot where we cropped it differently, here we go. Let's crop this one differently. Let's go with the sky. And now you can use the sky and add text up there if you wanted to. It's what we call copy space in the design world. Here's a square version that you can use for Instagram. Again, you can adjust the crop for copy. Okay. All right, so here's another one that I shot, also at an odd part of the lens. And I'll show you why I did it that way. Okay. So reset that crop. You can see that I shot it with the building more towards the top. The reason why I did that is I wanted to hold my camera perpendicular to the plane of the earth. So what I mean by that is, let me just do a little drawing for you guys so you understand what I mean by that. Okay, here's an example. Imagine you're in a room. And you have to shoot this wall, okay? This is the wall that you have to shoot, okay? And you're standing over here with your camera. Your camera should be as flat as this wall, okay? Meaning it's not twisting this way, it's not twisting this way, it's not twisting back, it's not twisting forward. It is completely flat against this wall. And a couple of ways that you would do that is if you had a tripod with a plate on it. This plate will be level to the ground, okay? This plate will be level to the ground. And if you screwed a camera on top of it, that camera will now be perfectly square to this wall. And you can shoot an image that's perfectly square of the adjacent wall. All right? So what if, for example, the building that I was shooting, I want the building to look like it's going up on top, right? I can either do it that way, or I can do it where the building looks like it's both going up and down, or I could do it where the building looks more like it's going down towards me. Yeah. And in order to do this and not move the camera, because as soon as I tilt the camera up, I'm going to start getting lines that go this way, right? If I tilt the camera down, I'm going to get lines that go this way. And so my vertical lines are no longer vertical. And so the way that I would do it is, instead of tilting the camera up or down, is actually physically moving the camera up, or physically moving the camera down while maintaining the 90 degrees, while maintaining the perpendicularity to the ground. But what happens is you're going to end up with a photo. If you moved up with it, you're going to end up with a photo that has your building pointed. You have a lot of negative space that you don't need. Okay. Or if you moved it down to shoot like that, you're also going to get a lot of negative space that you don't need. Okay. You might have a picture that looks more like this. And so what ends up happening is you want to use that crop ability to crop the photo. So this is exactly what I did here. I shot the image, all right, with the camera slightly down, giving me more area on the bottom that I don't need. So in the end, when I crop the photo, I get a photo that has lines that are vertical, and it allows me to see the things that I want to see without making my lines, my vertical lines, either keystone in or out. Okay, so this is an example. Okay, so here's an example of something the client shot and something that I shot. So here's the version that I shot, and I'm shooting on the wide angle so that I can crop it later, but you get an image sort of like this. Now, both of us were trying to show sort of the industrial nature of the door and the metal beams on top. But this one is a little less disorderly. And this one feels like it doesn't feel real somehow, because that's not how our eye sees. And we know that a building doesn't look like that. It looks somehow incorrect. But this shot, we can sort of understand that even though it's stretched out on one end of it, that it still feels sort of proper to our eye for some reason. It has to do with limiting the distractions of the angled lines. Having straight lines on the page helps keep the person grounded, the viewers grounded. I did want to show you one thing that we can do to this image, because sometimes what I don't like is seeing the stretched portions of the image. So in order to compensate for that, what we can do is I can make a copy of this, and I'm going to do... Okay, just this one. Make a copy of it. Okay, and then I'm going to crop it. So you can see that, in fact, I had already cropped this image. So I had shot it even wider before. So when I shoot an image that is wide, I generally don't actually want to use it wide. I just want to crop in for the area that I feel like is the most important. So in terms of information communicated, the front portion of the image doesn't communicate a lot of information. It's just a long span of a concrete sidewalk, and it's not telling me that much more about the image. Okay, so I can see this much of the sidewalk and still understand what it is, or the front walkway, I should say. Let's just go to a 1x1 and see what happens if we do a 1x1 crop. The 1x1 crop does allow me to kind of take out the beam on top. Let's see what happens if we go to a 4x5 wide. Okay, so this crop is quite nice. it gets rid of anything that is stretching in the photo. You still get to see the elements that he wanted to call out, which are these bolts that are placed in there as part of the decoration. You still get to see the landscaping. You still get to see the corrugated siding. You get to see the concrete, and you get to see, we'll probably end up shooting it with the door half ajar, and we'll take out this mat. These are, again, just scouting shots. And we'll probably do it where in the end, I'll shoot it on in RAW so I can bring some of the detail back in the dark parts. Okay. All right, so that gives you a little bit of an example of how I use crops to make a photo even better.